The first do now question states, find the missing side length of the right triangle. Notice we have a right triangle and we are giving the measurement of both legs. Therefore, to find the length of the missing side, in this case is the hypotenuse, we'll use the Pythagorean theorem. It states in any right triangle, if A and B are the lengths of the legs and C is the length of the hypotenuse, then A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Or we can say leg squared plus other leg squared is equal to hypotenuse squared. The equation A squared plus B squared equals C squared is called the Pythagorean theorem. We'll begin by writing down the Pythagorean theorem and substituting. Remember, A and B are interchangeable, so 2 you could substitute for either A or B, and once we substitute one in for A, the other one would be B. So in this case, I'm writing 2 squared plus 6 squared equals C squared. I could have easily written 6 squared plus 2 squared equals C squared. It was just my choice. 2 squared is 4, plus 6 squared is 36. Add 4 plus 36, we have 40. Now we'll take the square root of both sides. This will leave me with C is equal to the square root of 4 times the square root of 10. I'm factoring out the perfect square, simplifying my radical. The square root of 4 is 2, so C is equal to 2 radical 10. If I didn't want to exactly answer, I could just plug in square root of 40 in my calculator, and I should be able to get approximately 6.325. Write the equation of the line that passes through the point 4, 3 and is parallel to the line y equals negative 2x plus 5. Remember, in doing so, we will have to use the point-slope formula. So remember, if we're given 2 points, we could find the slope. Once we find the slope, then we could substitute it into point-slope formula. So in this case, it would be y minus 3 is equal to 2 times x minus a negative 2. Minus a negative 2 is plus. Now we have point-slope form. Now we will distribute and then add 3. This will give us slope-intercept form. If we wanted to write slope-intercept form into standard form, we will simply subtract 2x from both sides. And this is in standard form. Normally on a standardized test, they usually will start with a negative, but you can have it starting with a negative because in standard form, the only restriction is that A, B, and C are real numbers. And we have standard form. So either one would be correct. So let's go back to our problem. Parallel lines, we have to know, have the same slope but different y-intercept. So therefore, the slope of the parallel line will be negative 2, and the point that it passes through is 4, 3. We can utilize our point-slope form, substitute the values in, distribute, and add 3 to both sides. And normally we write in all equations in slope-intercept form unless otherwise stated. So if they say write the equation, it's usually understood that we want to write it in slope-intercept form. They may just say to write it in point-slope form, which will stop at this line right here. And then, as I showed you before, we could write it in standard form. Let's take a look at the second part. In this case, we want perpendicular to. That means our slopes are opposite reciprocal. So if one slope is negative, the other slope would be positive, and the reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. We can also state it that the product of the slopes is equal to negative 1. Notice that a half times negative 2 is equal to a negative 1. So now we'll use point-slope form, substitute our values in, distribute, and add 3 to both sides. And we have the equation. Y equals half x plus 1. Slope-intercept form. On the next portion, it says, write the equation of each item. Line FG is a vertical line. The coordinates for point F are negative 2, 1. The coordinate for point G is negative 2, negative 2. If I pick any point on this line, and remember it continues up and down forever, the x value will always be negative 2. So therefore, our equation is simply x is equal to negative 2, because every single time my x value will always be negative 2. Likewise, on this particular one, point E, 2, 3. Point H, 4, 3. Any point I pick along this line, and remember the arrows mean it extends forever in opposite directions, my y value will always be 3. So therefore the equation for line EH is y equals 3.